is the Wandering Mike.
Welcome everyone to the Wandering Mike. Today I'm here with Nick. Hey Nick,
Hello,
how you going?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Of course. I'm looking forward to our conversation. Think it's gonna be an interesting and maybe funny one. I'm not that sure yet.
Hard to say. Don't set the bar too high.
Fair enough. So to get us started, I always let the person introduce himself. So if you just want to tell us a little bit, whatever you want about yourself, maybe where you're from, maybe how you ended up in Australia, anything you want to share.
Yeah, sure. My name's Nick, 33 years old, and I come from Canada. And I'm from Victoria, Vancouver Island on the west coast. And I guess like my story as how I got here is I used to work in marketing for about 10 years with nonprofits. I was a graphic designer for 7 of those years, and then a creative director for quite some time. And then at some point, I think I needed a change in my life, and I think that happens to a lot of us. And at some point, you think this is it. And at that time, around this time, I was like, this isn't it. I need to do something else. And I happen to have a sister who lives in Perth, and so decided to go visit her for a couple months. And then after that, I was like, it'd be nice to see more of Australia. And so I decided to move over to the East Coast and to beautiful Bundaberg. Amazing, lovely characters that a lot of us know and love. But yeah, that's how I kind of got here. This is where I am now.
Right. Yeah, the beautiful Bundaberg.
Beautiful Bundy.
So you said you worked in marketing. Was the motivation to do graphic design, was the main motivation the interest in marketing or the art aspect of it?
I was very much an artsy kid growing up. I came from a family that did lots of sports. I'm a tall guy, so I'm always, I'm in basketball, I'm in volleyball, and so are my brothers and sisters and everything like that.
Not football, as we found out yesterday.
No, not football, and unfortunately.
Or soccer.
Sorry to disappoint everyone in Europe. No, and then I was a rower that was my main sport. But the other part of it was I like music, being a musician, as well as like painting and everything like that. And so as I was in high school or college, well, I guess high school. I was looking for a career that you could actually like make a living, as well as do something that I really enjoyed. And I did really enjoy commercial art. Like Andy Warhol kind of stuff already. And like even being in a couple of bands when I was in middle school and high school, we needed album art. And so I would just make the album art on Microsoft Paint or Microsoft Word, and it looked awful. But I thought it looked good. My mom thought it looked good. So that's all that really matters, doesn't it? And so then I decided to just pursue a diploma in graphic design from a little graphic design school called Pacific Design Academy, which is PDA, which there's always a joke about. Public displays of affection. Never got old, ever. So it was mostly more of the graphic art, and then I happened to land a job with a marketing firm that specialized in nonprofits, and so it seemed to fit my values and everything, because like you can work with lots of marketing companies and their whole point is to milk consumers dry for products they don't need. But in this case, it was, feeding the homeless or getting money so kids in India could go to school, or, building hospitals or anything like that. It seemed more aligned. And then I kind of just more fell into it, but, graphic design was kind of more of the entry point or the waypoint in.
Right. Um, because that's basically the problem I have with marketing as well
Mm.
is, I mean, as the name suggests, you always market something. But I guess when you can find a thing where you actually believe in it, it makes it much more enjoyable. Because I worked in a sales job back in Perth as well, and it was solar. So I was kind of like, yeah, solar is not that bad. I studied environmental technologies as well, so it was kind of right up there as well. But at the end, it just always feels like you're selling something, you know, like it makes sense kind of for them. I mean, that's the selling point, right? It's like, yeah, you're gonna save and you're doing something good for the environment, which also obviously with solar isn't even true most of the time because it takes like a lot of resources and like rare metals to like produce all these photovoltaic panels and stuff. So yeah, it's not really that environmentally friendly, which I learned in my studies as well.
Everything has its cost.
But yeah, anyway, so you found something where you said, I want to market this. Like you found something that you were interested in. And so you were basically working for several nonprofits, or was it one company that you like? Was it an organization that was working with a lot of different companies then?
Yeah, so it was one agency, and so we
Right.
worked with lots of different organizations, and like it was a startup business as well, and so it was only like I think it was a team of 6 of us at the beginning,
Right.
and we it wasn't purely a nonprofit agency. We had to work with some credit unions and banks for the first little bit just to, payroll
Yeah.
everything because nonprofits is like it is a $3 billion industry, but nonprofits are always struggling to make money, and a lot of it is through grants and things. So if they don't get that grant, then the first thing they cut is the marketing budget and everything like that. So even though you're the one trying to get them money and everything like that, you're also the first one they cut because that looks the best, is like cutting those little things on the financial report. So, which is unfortunate. But yeah, so like we started out as a fairly small little company, and then you add 2 more people, you add a couple more people. Oh, we got a couple more clients here. Oh, we got some clients that are now nationwide, kind of like worked in internationally and like all across Canada and everything like that, not just in our own local area and everything. So it got pretty big, got to like, I don't know, almost 30 people or something like that. And then I got bought out by another company, and then we merged and everything, and then a lot of changes happened. Yeah, it was seeing the cycle of a business has made me appreciate people who are trying to start businesses, and I got to see it on the ground, the ground level, and seeing my boss try and make it work and all the struggles he had to do to keep the lights on, but also like try and make it happen. So I do have an appreciation for entrepreneurs and business people, because like it's the same thing with lots of like a lot of the organizations maybe they don't align spiritually or religiously and stuff like that, but now working with them, it's sort of like I understand them a lot more and everything, and I'm more open-minded now, I feel, after that experience as well, because like there's a lot of faith-based organizations that we worked with as well. So yeah.
Yeah, that's something that I was gonna ask because it sounds like you starting up with the company fairly early and it being like a pretty like family kind of dynamic is what it sounded like to me. You must have gotten a lot of like insights. You must have like seen how all that, like you've said, like you've seen the struggles, you've seen the overcomings, you've seen the successes, you've seen the, I guess, the success of being bought out, or like, would you think that that is a good milestone?
Can you say that question again?
Like, if like for your company, you getting bigger and bigger, and you get to a point where another company wants to buy you out. I feel like that is kind of a good thing.
Yeah, no, I would say that can be a sign of success and everything like that. I think there is always going to be a different perspective from the person who started it to the person who's just been there along the ride kind of thing. And so, like I can tell, sometimes, when leadership doesn't make a decision that they're doing something with your thing you started, it's sort of like, oh, you're not getting my vision and everything like that. And like, oh, you're changing things and everything like that. I can see how it's like, if you've invested a large portion of your life trying to build this thing, I can see how like there can be a bit of a protection, like trigger for things of change and things whenever someone takes it over. But yeah, I think most entrepreneurs want to build businesses, and like eventually they'll have to step away at some point, which is one of the hardest things from what I've understood, is actually step away from your baby that you made. So
yeah, I can see that, obviously, but then it gives you a chance to maybe do another one.
that's true.
But I mean, obviously, as we've just learned, it's not that easy. So having one
Most
succeed,
businesses fail.
having one really succeed, and then you, have to part ways with it. Was that working and coming from that background? I mean, obviously you're here now because you just want to have a change for a bit. So I don't know if you ever thought about this actively or not, but do you feel like having a lot of experience and also being a creative director is what you said, do you feel like you might have your own agency at some point?
That's a good question. I think at this point in time, I'm still not confident that would be something in the future for me. However, you never know. It's like I've only been out of the job for 5 or 6 months at this point.
Yeah.
And that's then I've realized now that that's actually not like a great huge amount. It seems like a long amount of time, but it's actually not a long amount of time compared to like being in one thing for 10 years. So, like, yeah, I would say at some point I'll figure out that, but at this point in time, I'm kind of just enjoying what moment to moment has for me, not overthinking what the future has for me, kind of thing.
Well, that's good. Because the only thing, I feel like we had this conversation once while we were training. There is no future, there's no past. The only thing we have is the present.
Well, that's what I thought that was like, if you're thinking too much of the future, you have a large amount of anxiety. If you're thinking too much of the past, you have depression, kind of thing.
Exactly.
That's why you want to keep present.
That's why the now is a gift. That's what they call it. Okay,
I want to leave.
Let's stop with the plan. So Australia, basically, it was initially just because of family, or was there a thing where you were like, Australia? Like, was it always like, I want to see that place?
I've had plenty of family members and friends come to Australia, so it's always been kind of like in my mind of like somewhere to go, because like my brother came here, and my sister's been here for like 7 years, and it's like I think in terms of what I was looking for when I was thinking about like, oh, I need a change in my life, is I think one of the things I wasn't super duper happy with is like, I think everyone can feels like, like I think you can get really too comfortable in a lot of ways, and that's definitely how I was feeling when I
Right.
was back home, was like, I'm definitely too comfortable. And like, I think in kind of a funny sense, it's like, well, why don't I just go to the most deadliest place ever where the sun can murder me, and it's filled with snakes and spiders. So that was I didn't think too deeply about it that at that time, but it was like, that's a bit of a scary place. It's not like, oh, I'll just move to states can be a little scary too, but
especially now.
but it's not like, oh, I'll just move over to like another province. And I think like I do, especially with this experience, even though it's a short amount of time, it's like I do think at some point you're gonna have to move away from your hometown, even though like Victoria's in my hometown, but I've just been kind of in the same province for like, most of my life and everything, and
Yeah.
I've never really moved way too far. So I think there's something warranted about just like you're gonna have to leave home and go completely somewhere different on your own at some point, and going to another country is a great opportunity to kind of see, um, how it's a good way to test how you can be in uncomfortable situations and like adapting to things. Because that's one of the biggest lessons I've learned is like I didn't think I could, as a 33-year-old ancient man, I didn't think I could, live with a bunch of 20-year-olds and like where music's blaring all the time. I always thought it was like, I need my quiet space, and like you have all these routines and everything, but like once you
Yeah.
break the routines and everything, like you can reassemble them, and you're definitely a lot more adaptable. And I've realized that about myself is just more of like, oh, I'm quite adaptable to things. It's just more of like, it's just scary in the beginning where you're like, my routines, my things, my structure. Oh no, what am I going to do without it, kind of thing. But I think that's one of the biggest learnings I've had so far is like, it's like, if you don't understand someone else's walk of life, it's like, yeah, once you walk a couple steps in it, then you kind of get it, kind of thing, and you can actually do it. And most people can do that. So
Yeah, I think one of the things for me as well when I started traveling, that I just realized as well, and because I always tell people I've never wondered about age and I never asked people about age. And I feel like it's kind of true, but also maybe it came from me traveling really early on.
mhm,
Because when you travel, you are just with a lot of people from different cultures,
mhm,
different backgrounds, but also different ages.
mhm,
Because there is the 18, 20-year-olds, there's the 25-year-olds,
mhm,
the 30-year-olds, and then there's also the occasional 40, 50 plus
mhm,
ones. Like I had a great conversation I remember to this day, and I keep telling people about with the 60-year-old guy that I met in Thailand. And, um, I was 23 at the time. I was there with a girl that I met, and we were just talking to this 60-year-old guy, and I just remember us leaving like profoundly like changed just
mhm,
because of the conversation we had with him. Um, but anyway, it is truly something that you just because you're in a place together with
mhm,
people and you just yeah, you communicate with those people, you live
mhm,
with those people, and at the end of the day, I feel like sometimes you can still like you can see patterns, and
mhm,
then it's like, oh yeah, they might not be as mature,
mhm,
but I don't necessarily link that to age as well. It's just some people are in a specific thing more
mhm,
mature, but then in another less. It's always like it's you can't really generalize. Oh, this guy's 18.
yeah,
Like we won't have anything in common.
mhm.
It's not like that.
And sometimes it's embarrassing because when you're older and then like you are talking with like an experienced 20-year-old chef who makes like the most amazing cuisine, and you're like,
Right.
yeah, here's my peanut butter on toast and my Mr. Noodle. Um, so like, yeah, I think there's a lot of things you can learn about yourself as well as learn about other group dynamics, and like how like a lot of it is like it's kind of funny. There's like, like as you were saying, we're living with a large amount of different diverse cultures and things, different from different countries and everything like that. But I think like there is a through line, or like there's lots of similarities about what people want to experience and what people talk about. They talk about family, they talk about feuds between different countries and histories and everything like that. Like, and we all kind of have those kind of things. It's just a little different from each one, but it's kind of like I don't want to make this sound like a kumbaya story, like, oh, we're actually, we're not so different after all, because there is some differences, but it's just sort of like, it's like, it's like, I think through this experience, it's like it gives even more tools to work with when it's like, oh, like how do you actually relate to people who are quite a bit different to you, or how do you get through language barriers, and how do you do all these things, which I think are quite, uh, skills that probably wouldn't have developed if I didn't come here. So
Yeah. And I think I would say it's a kumbaya story. To say it in the words of Disney World,
Mhm.
it's a small world and for all. You know that, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, no, but I feel like that is, I mean, that's also the idea of the podcast, is to just show that. And obviously, it, it is a bit biased because, like, the people that are here, the people that do backpack,
Mm.
I feel like we all have a similar kind of mindset because that's why we
Mhm.
are here, right?
Mm.
Like, so maybe not every Italian that's in this hostel, not every Japanese that's in this hostel is a representation of the Italian
Mm.
people back home.
Mm.
Like, I'm probably the worst example of like a German person. Like,
Mm.
if you would go back to Germany, I don't know how much alike they will be to me. You
Mhm.
know what I'm saying? So I feel like the people that go abroad and travel and that have that curiosity in them and that have that thing of even realizing, hey, I've got a bit too comfortable.
Mhm.
Because I have the same thing where I was going to Portugal basically just because COVID prevented me from traveling around the world, because that
Mhm.
was my initial plan. And
Mhm.
then when COVID hit, I just found a job in Portugal that I quite liked and got promoted there. So I stayed and I had a great time. I had my friend group, I had
Mhm.
my job, I had everything was really good. Like, actually, yeah. And at that point, I could have seen myself grow old in Portugal, but
Mhm.
that's when I went as well.
Mhm.
Well, stop! You need to go see more of the world
Mhm.
before you're like ready for that. And I don't think, or rather, I think I know because a lot of my friends are back in Germany. They've bought houses, they started families at
Mhm.
my age, and they're super happy as well. So not everyone has that thing inside of them
Mhm.
where they have to go abroad, where they have that curiosity. So I think that is something that really like binds all of us here as well because we kind of have that same thing inside of
Mhm.
us.
Yeah, no, and like I think sometimes like when I'm sitting and pondering, as I do, um, sometimes I like have myself make up some little sayings that make sense for me, I guess. And in this context, I've now coined for myself. It's sort of like if you're unhappy where you are, it's one of two things. It's like you need more adventure in your life, or you need more discipline in your life. So I think before I overdid it on the discipline and kind of did the one thing, and it's only one thing, and it's always routine and stuff like that. And it's like I think, and like it will always change throughout your life. Impermanence is a kind of like uh, just what life is really all about. So I think, yeah, it seems like you need adventure at that point, and that doesn't fit everyone's timeline. Sometimes like the family is perfect, and I have a brother who like loves his family. They're a family early in life, and it was perfect for him. So
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, exactly. That's also something I learned as I was getting older because when I was younger, like my thing was always to be curious, was
Mhm.
always to like go where I'm not at the moment,
Mhm.
always seeking the thing that
Mhm.
that I don't have. And especially when I was younger, I always kind of looked down on the other people. Like I was like, why don't you want to travel?
Yeah.
Why are you so okay with just staying here your whole life? And obviously that changed when I got older and I was like, everyone has their own thing.
Yeah.
Who am I to tell like my
Yeah.
friend how he's supposed to live his life? So I just realized that for a lot of people, stability is the goal. You know,
Mhm.
for a lot of people, having a family is the goal, and
Mhm.
it gives them everything that they need
Mhm.
in life. And for some people, it isn't. So um, that's why. And these are just two like
Mhm.
aspects of how one can live a life. But
Mhm.
that's why um actually like just curious as well, like what other ways is there to live one's life? And that's
Mhm.
why I'm having these conversations with people and just like seeing and really just trying to understand,
Mhm.
not judge anymore. I'm
Mhm.
past that, but just understand how is people going through life, like how is
Mhm.
people, what motivates people,
Mhm.
what sparks their thing that they're after, what is the important thing in the life, what isn't important, you know, and
Mhm.
just getting these kind of insights from all different people.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I think, yeah, I think, yeah, and like I think that almost comes with age too. Is sort of like you realize that it's like, and maybe it's like it's because the time window of life is slowly shortening in front of
Like,
your eyes. It's, you're
here we
just
are
like,
again.
oh, you really have to, pick the things that are important and actually focus on those instead of like, oh, I get like, and maybe it's to your point of like, some people, stability is the biggest thing, and like I'm sure there's 8 million stories of million billion dollar companies that have CEOs where it's like, well, I started out like super poor, had 12 children or something in a shack or something like
Right.
that, where it's like we barely could eat and everything. And so that kind of set a mindset of like scarcity and like I need to be able to provide for my family because I never want to go through this experience again. Or, lots of people like say they want to be like Tiger Woods, but if you listen to anything about his upbringing with his dad and everything like that, like,
Right.
do you want to go through all that? Do you want to start at 3 and going through all that and kind of thing? I don't think many would make that sacrifice to do it. So it's sort of like, yeah, like yeah, at the end of the day, you have no idea what someone's gone through life or why they've made the decision. But I think at the end of the day, I've learned that there is a why. It's just like some whys are sometimes they're simple, and then other ones are quite complicated and require a lot of digging into and stuff. So, but it's easy to just say like, why aren't people more like me? This is weird kind of thing.
Yeah. It's kind of have to do with what you said, but it also goes a bit away from the original topic. Um,
Mm,
but it's also something, as you said with Tiger Woods, like people are always like they kind of want the outcome, but they don't want how you got there.
yeah.
Um, and so it's always easy to say, "Oh yeah," like you said, like, "Oh, look what he achieved," but then, well, look what he had to go through. Like,
Yeah.
look how he. Um, so yeah, in a way that makes it, to me, it also makes it more attainable, though. You know, like rather than just being like, well, he's just Tiger Woods,
Mhm.
or if you if you say like if we take some business examples, it's like, well, yeah, he just got lucky. No, it's like he just put in a lot of work. Like he
Mhm.
just sacrificed a lot of his time, and like if I would do that, like I could get there as well. And then it's always a thing of like, do I want to?
Mhm.
Do I want to sacrifice this? Do I want to? And then we get back to what is important to every
Mhm.
single person. Um, I don't know why we're going down this this road, but
Yeah, Mike, why are we doing this? What are we?
I'm
This is
talking
this is
about
a strange 4x4 detour we're taking. No.
um things that are important to people. Um, you said you came here to Australia because you wanted to get killed by a snake. I'm paraphrasing.
Uh, Whoa, 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 whoa. Hold on.
Um, so an important thing in your life right now, and I'm using the word important just because we were just talking about it, but is farm work.
Mhm.
So initially, I mean, you said kind of, oh, I want to go to this crazy, adventurous country. But when you initially came to visit your sister, did you ever think you would go from working in an office, I suppose, to do the graphic
Mhm.
design, to now committing to pretty much doing 3 months of work on a farm?
I knew I would have to work when I came to Australia, but and then applying for the visa and everything, you learn about the 88 days and
Right.
all that. So, um, yeah, I don't think it was the first thing that popped into my head about like, oh, I'm going to Australia and everything like that. And then you start to learn how big agriculture is here and everything like that. And like I think over time, like even like I'll say an anecdote from when I first started here. Like, it's fun to be in a hostel, being a jobless bum for, maybe a couple days. And then you sort of
Right.
like, I need to do something or kind of thing. And I think at that point, it's sort of like I'm willing to accept any opportunity because I'm confident enough that I'll get through it kind of thing. And I think farm work is quite difficult and it's, hot sun. Sometimes instructions can be a little bit more complicated, especially if it's not something you've done in your life. I've had manual labor jobs and everything like that, right?
Right.
And but it's a different way of doing things, and it's a different mindset, and like some of it is just like I think at the farm I'm working at, the boss man was like it's kind of like a mental game when you have to do the same thing for
Mm.
10 hours or something like that. And so I think it's a different strengthening in your brain that you have to do. Um, and yeah, so like farm work wasn't the first thing that came to mind. And like, but I think like, I'm just, it's almost, it doesn't matter what the opportunity was. Again, like I'm in a state of kind of like, I'm graciously accepting the opportunities, and the struggles will also provide a reward in some way, and not just be like, oh, that was awful. And it's like more my take on it is like, I'll have a lesson that I can move forward with instead of it being like, well, I'll have an awful experience or a great experience or something like that. I think in the end of the day, it's just lessons at the end of the day. So.
Um, I'm taking it a bit away from that just because I'm curious to hear your answer because we were just chit chatting about religion a bit before the
Mm,
podcast. But when you say like from the things that happen in your life, you always try to take a lesson away from it.
mm,
Is that for you just a practical thing, or is it also a bit of a spiritual thing?
mm. I think I think spirituality can be wrapped in practical things, kind of thing. I think they can be intertwined, and so I think in this case, it's like there's lots of things that I can't predict. There's really nothing I can do about how life will unfold in certain aspects. So there is something to be said about like believing that the world will turn out okay. I will survive tomorrow. That may not be the case. Could end right after this podcast.
It
It's
could,
not good enough.
and while we do it,
Kind of thing. Put the gun away, Mike.
don't tell them nothing. Not
Um, but yeah, like I like I think as I've grown older, spirituality has gotten a little bit more like have a little bit more interested in it, and I think it's also like I have a mantra now is like you always because lots of people when they face things, it's always like, what should I do? What's the right thing to do? What's the wrong thing to do? And everything
right.
like that. I think it's like the world is so not black and white. It's more gray that I usually just start with, well, what's helpful first? Like what's actually helpful? Because there's lots of things that like you can say is the right thing to do, but you don't 100% know the right thing to do. And
Right.
sometimes it's not even worth thinking about if it's not helpful. And it's like, again, like if you're constantly thinking about your death, you don't know when that's going to happen, then that's not helpful. And so I feel like that comes a lot from all traditional religions and everything. You have to believe, even without evidence, that like things will be okay, because that just kind of makes sense, because you gotta living life neurotically and like cautiously and everything with every little thing is not really much of a life. It's just dying slowly
Yes.
at the end of the day. So
Yeah. Um, I heard a funny thing. Think it was last week when I was listening to a podcast. Think I've told you about. I don't know if it was you or someone else, but I listened to this podcast with Neil deGrasse Tyson, and
yeah.
he was saying one thing. What he basically was talking about science, but you can, or I took it also to think about other things. But he was saying, like, to your point, like, not all questions that you ask yourself are good questions. And he was making this like absurd example of, like, what kind of cheese is the moon made out of? But then it's like, you, like, obviously, if you ask what kind of cheese is the moon made out of, we kind of know that that's a stupid question. But his point was like, a lot of questions that we ask, we don't even know if in 10 years, looking back, they sound to us like, what kind of cheese is the moon made out of? So it's, to your point, we're thinking about a lot of things, and maybe we don't have the full picture yet. And sometimes, um, to the other point you made about overthinking, so maybe sometimes we should just like take action, even if we don't have all the answers yet, and then maybe at some point the picture will show itself, and picture will actually tell us the moon isn't made out of cheese at all.
Yeah, I think that goes. I have read books and things about just like how to be more of an actual person and stuff, because I did large background in overthinking. And yeah, I think one thing that stood out to me was more people regret not doing a thing than doing a thing. So I think at the end of the day, it's like you make the choice and make the mistake, but that's probably a lot better than like just wondering what could have been and all that, or not doing the action. And usually it's almost timing has screwed me over more than like it wasn't the right decision or wrong decision. It was more like, oh, I didn't make the right decision quick enough, and now the opportunity is gone. So
Right.
I don't think so.
And yeah, even if you don't 100%, which I still don't know from your answer, you were a bit vague there.
It's all right.
No, but no, I'm just saying, like, even if you don't 100% think that everything happens for a reason, which is kind of what I believe in. So that's why I'm always like interested in other people's spiritual like beliefs, because to me, that is just something that, to your point, also has a practical thing in my life, because I can just use it to always turn everything into a positive. But it is also something I truly believe in, is that everything happens for a reason. And basically, even if that's not what you believe in, everything that you do will always shape who you are. And the things that you don't do can shape, kind of thing. So to that point, like you were saying, you have to go through farm work, you have to go through struggles that you wouldn't have to go through being a graphic designer. On the other hand, being a graphic designer for that long will have struggles of its own. So everything kind of at a time where maybe you need to go through these things, where you need to like be more sharpened in that direction, maybe more into that kind of thing.
Yeah. I where you're coming from, and yeah, like so yeah, like I guess I'm trying. It's hard, and like spirituality is just like a hard one to pinpoint, because like a lot of the time it does more seem like it's like a practical thing for me, but it's like, I would like to get to a point where like there is the things that I guess there are things that I believe in, I guess, but like it's not always 100% clear to me, because like I think sometimes it's like everyone, yeah, it's like you only know people. People that know you best is you, and it's like I don't even know me that great sometimes, and like sometimes you have to go through something to like put that belief into context for yourself. Like you can believe like, you know, like we should all get along, and then you come to a hostel and there's some argument about something, and then you learn about, you know, this other person's like argument doesn't make any sense, and the only real resolution is to not have that person in the group anymore. And that's a
Exactly.
hard thing to make a choice about. Like you think, oh, we can all get along. It's like some people will never want to get along, kind of thing. So you can, you know, there's lots of challenges, I guess, for your beliefs that need to happen too. So
Yeah. And I guess that's also, again, a thing of getting comfortable, because if you're in a situation where you just, and I'm speaking from experience
mhm,
now as well, like where you just feel like, oh, I've got it figured out.
mhm,
And you, that's also where I'm trying never to get to, you know,
mhm,
I never want to catch myself being like in this particular thing of life. And like I said, it has a lot of different things. Um, I know it all, because that's the worst position I think you can put yourself
mhm,
in, because then you can learn. And once I was in that position, let's take relationship wise as well. I was
mhm,
kind of like, oh yeah, I kind of get along great. Like I know how to handle myself with other people. And once you're in that mindset of, yeah, I know it all, then it hits you even harder once a conflict
mhm,
comes up and
yeah,
challenges
yeah,
completely like, oh, you don't know shit.
yeah,
And obviously this can be like for any department of life.
mhm,
I don't know the English word. Like like
mhm,
any kind of field in life is like that. So I'm always trying to, and obviously I don't always succeed, but when I actively catch myself, then I remind myself of, no, you don't know. You will never know. Like
mhm,
even when I'm 80, 90 years old, hopefully,
mhm,
if I get there, um, even then I hope that I can still remind myself, you don't know it all,
mhm.
because otherwise, yeah, you would stop learning, and then to your point again, you just slowly die
Yeah, it's
because you're
just,
not
are
well.
you living or just slowly dying? That's your choices, kind of thing.
I feel like dying is in this podcast far too often.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
a
if you just put
baby.
away the gun, Mike, we'd stop.
Don't tell a to gun. If this podcast ends abruptly, it's not because of the, even if it's a gun sound, it's not the gun. Shoot.
Pow, 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 pow.
Um, so as we also talked about that there is no future,
No.
or like that we shouldn't think about the future. Have you thought about your future? That's basically what I'm asking is, once that farm work is done,
Mm,
what do you kind of want to still see in Australia? Because you've got that visa now,
yeah.
you've got some time to spend here. Anything that you're like excited to still see? You maybe just want to hang out with your family more. Anything you want to do while you're in the
Mm.
country?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think, you know, there is some unknown there just because, like, who knows, after 88 days, it's like, put me in some overalls. I'm starting a farm, baby, kind of whole. But yeah, like it's hard to say. You know, like I would like to spend a little bit more time with, you know, family that's here and everything, and I know friends that are also on the East Coast, so maybe it's worth visiting them because
Right.
I think also relationships are probably the you know, we think about how everything is expensive, especially in the economy right now, and
Mm.
but I think the most expensive thing is relationships and time because it's finite or it's limited. So you know, it's like so even though it might cost a little bit and take a little bit more time, maybe it's worth it to go see that friend you haven't seen in 5 years or something like that, or reconnect. And because keeping people connected is quite hard, especially
It
nowadays
is.
and everything like that. So, but yeah, would love to just see some more towns. I'm like, again, through this experience, I think I'm more open to things that I don't know that much about, and like going through it with not necessarily confidently, but like with the mindset that it's like it will be okay in the end. So let's go to this random little town and see what happens, or let's find this job up here and I'll have to move somewhere else. And that was an interesting experience. Or like I think I'm more open to those kind of things, like going up to Cairns or something like that, or like going down. Sydney seems fun, like for a little bit, but maybe not the place I would end up or something like that. Or maybe even like finding a way to do permanent residency might be the way to go. I'm a bit all over the place, to be honest. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, well, I'm in Oz, just looking for opportunities to nearly kill myself with the nature, I guess, is probably what I'll probably be doing, I think. And,
So you heard it, everyone. If Nick dies, it's not because of my, it's because of the animals.
but he did claim he has a gun now. Got him.
I said particularly it's not. Well, I have to have a gun because if the brown snake
Hey,
just
so
comes
no,
in,
then
wandering into the office, like what is a guy supposed to do?
crazy. Throw 20 somethings at them. Take that. Yeah.
But yeah, to the thing that you said about relationships as well. And to quote one of my favorite series of all time, BoJack Horseman, the only things we have in this world is the connections we make. So, I feel, I think it also comes with age because, especially traveling, you will make a lot of connections, but inadvertently, just because of this, you will also lose a lot of connections because, and I think we're both old enough to know that you're not gonna keep in contact with every single one in this hostel. Like when I was younger, when I was 20, 21 and I was traveling around, I was like, oh yeah, maybe I will like be friends with this person for the rest of my life. And then you maybe text for a couple of months, maybe only a couple of weeks. And then everyone just lives their life, and the thing that I've realized is that one, you can really, or you should rather, like because of that, try to get everything you can get out of the connection while you have the person with you. And that doesn't take anything away from the connection. Like I've made friends and then I just randomly thought about them, or also to not give myself too much credit. Maybe they have reached out because I have forgotten, and they have reached out after like a year or two. And I was so happy that they reached out. And then we just chatted for a bit, and it was like we were back in that moment where we met, and it's the same also with my childhood friends that or the friends I had from school, like they all now live in Munich and like they see each other every week. And so, and they, and I barely keep in contact with them just because it is hard. But then whenever we do talk, or whenever I go back to visit as well, it is like you're back in that, like nothing has changed, like the
dynamic of the game.
and it hasn't lost its value at all. It's just just because we don't reach out every time, or maybe we will never talk to someone again, it's just, yeah, you just need to remember, or I feel like it's still a very valuable
Mhm.
thing that you had um, with that person. And especially traveling, you
Mm.
meet so many people, and just, yeah, I guess the point I'm trying to make is even if you can't keep in touch with everyone, I mean, if you can, great.
Yeah.
But I just feel like you just can't. It's just life.
Yeah, and like I think there's no such things as choices. It's just trade-offs, right? So it's like you can only spend so much time with one group of people and another group of people and everything. And example in this hostel, it's like you find a certain group that you click with, and then you're like, well, it'd be nice to chat with some of the other groups, but it becomes harder and harder because like you haven't established those bonds yet, or it's a
Mm,
lot easier when you're just the new person, so you can start fresh. But once you've been
right.
around, all of a sudden, it almost gives an interpretation. It's like I haven't been hanging out with that group, so I'm giving the impression that I don't actually want to hang out with them, and I'm choosing this group instead. So I'm sure there's lots of people have similar feelings about it. It's like, well, I would like actually to make more connections, but it can be more difficult as time goes on and everything. Um, but yeah, I do agree on on trying to get the most out of a connection and everything like that. I think it's like there is a limit on energy and everything like that, but you do regret lots of things like, going through high school where everyone is the similar age and they're doing similar things and everything. It's a lot easier to make connections because you're forced into a building for 6 hours, and you're pretty much forced to make friends. I don't even remember making friends. Friends just kind of happened, and you're just like, oh, these are my
Right.
friends, and now we're 20 friends for the last 25 years or something like that.
Yeah, I know
Yeah,
what
and
you
now
mean.
like
Yeah.
trying to do it more as an adult and stuff like that. It's a bit more of like it's a lot more intentionality and things, and having an understanding of lots of people. Like before, you kind of have some assumptions when you're younger about how everybody kind of operates, and you think more about yourself in that context. That you kind of almost feel like you belong anyway, more so sometimes. And
Mhm.
maybe my point might not be for everybody, but I kind of feel like like with ignorance comes great confidence. And so you're willing to just like go hang out with some rando, and like you don't have any like scars from your past of rejection or anything from trying to start a relationship, but it didn't work out or anything. You kind of just went
Right.
for it when you're younger. And now that you're, older and you've seen, how cruel the world can be sometimes and trying to make connections, but people don't, they're, you're not for everybody and everything. Yeah, it's more of a struggle. So putting more emphasis once you find those connections and like continuing to put yourself out there to make more connections, I think is also like, I think lots of people don't even make that first step once they become more of an adult, is like, oh, you're going to have to be the uncomfortable one that is like, oh, I'm this awkward guy that will have to show up and try and say hi. You want to be friends? And stuff. And like, some people are going to be like, that's a weirdo. I don't want to hang out with that guy or whatever. And then you're going to have to just move on from that. And I think, yeah. And to your point about just like sometimes relationships just end, I do like the philosophy of like we're always moving, and like people are another thing you're bouncing off of. And so sometimes people, you should appreciate the time you have with everybody that you're with. Sometimes it's a short little while, and sometimes it's for the rest of your life. And so I think like even if you meet someone and it's a negative reaction, it will bounce you to the right interaction you're looking for, the right connection. So like you should appreciate the things that kind of failed, I guess, because it will give you one step closer to the right one.
Because everything happens for a
Or,
reason.
okay, shut up. I hate this podcast.
um, no, but I think one interesting thing that was in there as well is kind of the ignorance is bliss kind of
Mm,
thing. Because I think you can take that again for almost everything,
mhm,
and maybe even like the experience of like traveling and
mhm,
just going abroad.
mm,
rather than maybe because when I mean, I've experienced it a lot of times because I traveled a lot and I went to
Mm-hmm.
a lot of places. And basically, when I went to Indonesia for a year to study, my grandma more or
Mm-hmm.
less, like, she asked, "Do you want to die?" But basically, when I told people I'm going to go to Australia as well, or rather New Zealand, because I started
Right.
with New Zealand, so I went to New Zealand last year, and now I'm going to Australia.
Mm-hmm.
And like my friends' reactions were all like, not all, but most of them were like, "Oh, do you know anyone in New Zealand? Oh, what are you gonna do there? Oh, are you not afraid that like something's gonna go wrong?" And then I realized that I've never asked myself these questions.
Mm-hmm.
Like in their minds, these are valid questions,
Mm-hmm.
but in my mind, those questions never even existed.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just like, I think I said something along the lines like, "Oh no, I've never thought about that."
Yeah.
Like, I just want to go there. So I guess you can kind of make that the same thing, like the
Mm.
ignorance thing. It's
Yeah.
like if you just approach everything with that kind of childlike curiosity and
Yeah.
ignorance, and just um, because yeah, whatever it is we're talking about, your experiences definitely shape your thought
Mm-hmm.
process, even if you don't realize it.
Mm-hmm.
They obviously do. Everything we go through shapes how we think, how
Mm-hmm.
our brain things like trigger consequence, like all these
Mm-hmm.
kind of things. And it it is hard to get to that point, obviously, if you have lived and you had these experiences. But ideally, we should all just be stupid in a sense,
Mm-hmm.
like not in the sense that what's going on, but just trying to really actively fight all our biases that just
Mm-hmm.
unconsciously get installed in us by living,
Mm-hmm.
so that we can basically go back to being that child and just go, "Oh, who's this man?
Yeah.
What is this thing?"
Mm-hmm.
And just uh I mean, obviously sometimes it might be good to be like, "Yeah, don't touch that gun," for example. I don't know if Pre-
The one
I
that you're carrying.
that's why I don't want to say like things like that. Like
Yeah.
at some point you should know, yeah, don't touch the fire, like
Yeah.
stuff like that. But and other things, it's like, yeah, if it becomes like, don't approach this person because they look like something,
Mm-hmm.
then that to me is not like a valid thing. Like,
Yeah.
don't touch fire, yes, but don't talk to that person because they look a certain way,
Yeah.
And that's where we need to like, well, we don't need to, but I feel like if we can deprogram ourselves, we can make a lot more connections and have a lot more experience that otherwise would forego us just because of the thinking patterns in our brain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then hearing you talk about that did bring up like there's so many things like even like and it came up with you're talking about it's just like it's okay to be an idiot pretty much, or it's like it's
Yeah,
like you should give yourself some grace and do the thing even though it's foolish in a way. And like it kind of brings up is like I think one of the worst sayings probably that's been invented is like I should have known better, because
right.
like it's not a helpful saying, because like and especially and like I heard my parents say it all the time when we were growing up and everything, and like I would say it too when I was older and everything like that, because you feel like, oh, I'm older now and I've learned all these lessons, so like these errors that I make sometimes, it's like, well, they shouldn't have happened or something like that. And I think now my thought is like, instead of like it's like, oh, I should have known better, it's like, well, you didn't, and so what are you gonna do now? So it's like
Exactly.
that's the like it's sort of like it's one of those like some what is it, a college moment where someone overthinks something, where it's like it's just this simple thing. It's like, yeah, you did a dumb thing and now you're not dumb about that anymore. Congratulations. That's your lesson for today. It's not like, oh, you should have thought, 12 steps into the future and should have not made all those errors, and now
Exactly.
you should never do anything new ever again. And I think you're saying talking with strangers, I think there's a joke about that where it's like, oh yeah, it's good advice. Don't talk to strangers if you never want to meet anyone new ever again.
Exactly. It's right. I guess to maybe take it away a bit from like this hyper idealistic thinking, it probably is about balance.
Mm,
Like obviously some things we learn have merit, and
mm,
maybe we have some interactions that
mm,
can teach us in a good way, like, okay, I have a bad feeling about the way
mm,
this interaction is going, I've been down this road, maybe
mhm,
maybe I should avoid this. But then also just being open to the general goodness, the
mhm,
general idea of what new experiences can offer up to you,
mhm,
and yeah, I guess that's the art of finding that balance, more
mhm.
or less.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of, especially coming from that point about, and I think a lot of in terms of spirituality and things like they talk a lot about like awareness and wakefulness and stuff like that.
Mm.
It's like I think that's actually a good balancing point because like lots of people, it's like you have to figure it out. It's like no, you just have to acknowledge that something has happened and be aware of it, and then your body and mind will take care of the rest, kind of thing. You don't have to overthink everything. It's more of like, are you aware of what you did? Great, continue life, kind of thing. Instead of it being
Yeah.
like, oh, beating yourself up over whatever, or being negative towards yourself or other people for whatever reason. It's like it's all the extra things. It's not the event that you're going through that was the problem. It's all the things you've made up in your head about the event or the mistake that you've made, kind of thing. That's the problem. And so I think that's a pretty good balancing point. It's like you don't have to know everything. You just got to be aware of what you've done, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't really know when that like change in my mind happened as well, because I was always trying to be more aware of where we talked a lot about energy,
Mm,
and basically the things we think about is
mm,
also energy that we spend.
mhm,
And obviously I think as everyone does, like when I was younger, I had these thoughts of, oh, the thing that I said to that person
mm,
2 weeks
mm,
ago, maybe I should have said it like in a different way.
mm,
And I think it was around when I was like maybe 26, 27, when I stopped having these thoughts. So now I don't even remember like what it really felt like
mhm,
to have these kind of thoughts. But I do think and remember it being like very draining, because it
mhm,
just distracts you from the things that are actually going on. Like
mhm,
you were saying, like you're not really looking at the things, but you're just thinking about what you're making up in your mind.
yeah.
And uh, so, yeah, I wish that's kind of what I'm trying to put in words right now. I kind of wish I knew exactly where like that stopped,
Yeah.
so I could kind of put it in words how I stopped thinking about things like that. But I think as with everything, it's just kind of a learning process. For me, it was just taking that switch to just thinking about the good things,
Mm,
maybe also fully adopting that belief of everything happens for a reason.
mhm,
And then, uh, yeah, now I can't even fully think about how it was to have these thoughts in my head.
mhm,
And I just feel like it freed up a lot of space in
mhm,
my brain and my mind
mhm,
to just concentrate on the moment
mhm,
and be in the now. And accept it as the gift that it is, because it is the present.
You said that already.
I
and
know.
I hate it even more.
That's why I said it again. The good thing is you can't leave because I have a gut. No.
No, I think I think I think being a human is hard. Everyone should probably acknowledge that it's like, you know, 300 or 400 years ago, it's sort of like mortality rate and everything. It's like, well, you could maybe get to 50.
Right.
You're pretty much digging up potatoes most of your life and everything. There was no internet or anything, so no one put thoughts in your head. You kind of just worked on a field for most of your life, lived with your family, and it was a lot more simpler. And now, like, there's always like whenever there's a new stimuli in the world, you have another thing to think about, kind of thing. And
Yeah.
so, I think it's like a combination of like the modern world and trying to navigate it and trying to be at peace with yourself while trying to navigate it is quite difficult. I find it, as well as because you were saying it's like, where's that perfect balance and everything. It's like, well, you do have to like intentionally stop new information from coming in. You have to be like, okay, so you made a mistake, or you've learned something, or you have a certain feeling about yourself and everything. It's like, when do you stop being like, oh, well, I need to know more about this. I need to like actually investigate myself or get more information from it, when it is like, this is probably the most amount of information, or the best amount of information, or what's the word or better way to articulate it? Like, this is the most helpful amount of information that I have about this event and everything. This is what I think about it, but I acknowledge that these are just my own thoughts and these are not the reality, because I have no proof that someone else thinks this way of me, or like there's no proof of it. So I should probably stop here. I know the human brain doesn't work like that, or we don't think like that, but I guess as I'm trying to think out loud about this, yeah, I think one of the things is like, also your brain is like pretty much wired to be a prediction machine because it's built for survival. So it's always like, oh, something bad happened. How do I make sure that doesn't happen again, and everything like that. But
Right.
because of the modern world, lots of times it's sort of like, now we kind of just like, oh, that person didn't say hi to me back. I must, hey, kind of thing. And your brain's like, how do we stop that from happening? It's like, sometimes that's just what happens, and you're gonna have to deal with that, kind of thing. That was a bit of a ramble. I'm trying to land on something relevant for your point. But yeah, I think the natural struggle of just like trying to stop yourself from getting, you need some information, or you need to generate some thoughts about like your experience, but how do you stop yourself from going too far and like creating a negative image of yourself or something, I think
Exactly.
is probably a good goal to have, but I don't know 100% how to do that.
Or to that point as well, not only yourself, which is horrible and you should never do, but also the outside world, because then gets to a point where people also just like make up all these narratives about the outside world and making it this and I mean, to your point, I totally agree, being human is hard, I'm not taking away from that, but people just make up this narrative that maybe there's a lot of danger outside, maybe there's a lot of evil outside, making up these things like, yeah, no, I'm fine, but everyone else is an asshole. And it also kind of, then you're constructing this world where maybe you won't have the best experience, because if everything around you is bad as well, it doesn't allow you to fully have that appreciative experience and full experience that you would have otherwise, if everything is just, and it doesn't need to be good, it just needs to be neutral. And I think with all the philosophical platitudes that we're throwing around this episode, I guess life just is. Like nothing's good or bad. Things just happen. but I also feel like we have annoyed the people enough. I think we're at a good point
Yeah.
where we
Mike's mom is very upset now. It's like, get on with it.
so yeah. We've talked about a lot of interesting things, and there was a lot of thoughts in there, a lot of thought patterns that hopefully led some people to do their own thinking and stuff. Like that's what it's for, just thinking about things and see what we all think. And guns.
Yeah. Well, I do think like if I could make a point about like like a lot of these conversations are a bit like what you said, wandering Mike, and it's like wandering doesn't mean efficient. It just means you're exploring and you're trying things, you're going down detours and stuff like. So it's not always going to come out like the cleanest or something like that. I think that's the point, right?
Yeah.
The podcast, right? So it's like this isn't the efficient Mike.
It's sure. And that's a perfect way to wrap it up. With that,
we did it.
Thank you so much, Nick. Thank you for your time. Thank you for sitting down and sharing all your thoughts, all your experiences. I had fun. It was a good episode.
Good. Thank you for having me. And yeah, I don't know if you need me to do it again, but
I might.
Second appearance. Ooh, spicy.
Alrighty. With that, goodbye, everyone.